The price of Bitcoin today has gone up, it's gone down, it's gone up, it's gone down, and it's kind of ending the day around $28,000. It's up 1% so far today, and it's been a bit of a topsy-turvy day. A lot of indirection in the market coming from these bailouts that have been happening with these large banks. Now, one of those large banks in particular is First Republic Bank, and this is First Republic Bank stock today trading at $15, yesterday trading down at $12. However, it's not been a complete recovery in the value of this bank stock. It peaked today around $19 and has since crashed a further 25%. Now, the real question is, what is the likelihood that First Republic Bank stock goes to zero? And what is the likelihood and how does that affect the cryptocurrency markets? And of course, how is the Fed going to react to all of this? Well, one of the key important things to point out right now is that the 30-year mortgage rates are looking quite high. Currently, a 30-year mortgage is charging about 6.6% interest per year, according to this chart. And if we're to zoom out on a 30-year mortgage chart and look at how it's comparing to history, the last time that we were at these levels was back in 2007 before the financial crash. It's highly likely that actually we start to see a tapering off of the Federal Reserve interest rate hikes, and if anything, tomorrow could come in at 0%. And this is kind of what I'm getting at right now. Tomorrow is going to be such an interesting day. I believe it's 4 p.m. UK time is the time that you need to tune into my YouTube channel tomorrow, not this one, the That Martini Guy YouTube channel, so make sure you go over there and subscribe because I'll be streaming on there. But essentially tomorrow at 4 p.m, this is going to change. The other important thing to point out about what the Federal Reserve has been doing recently, other than, of course, mortgage rates increasing and, of course, interest rates increasing, is monetary supply has also been increasing, with the Fed printing money for the first time in over a year. Just the other day, literally yesterday, the Federal Reserve printed $300 billion. Now, I know I've brought this up to you before, but the point is, the point still stands. The Fed is printing money. Mortgage rates are already very high. When we look at these banks that have been crashing over the past couple of days, if I just bring up, not Bank of America, but if we look at, for example, UBS Bank, because I've got it already highlighted here. On UBS Bank, you can see the net loans on UBS are currently sat at $371 billion, with real estate making up around half of that loan percentage. Essentially, if the Fed is to continue to, nearly knocked a coffee off my desk then, if the Fed is to continue hiking rates over the course of the next, tomorrow, if the Fed is going to hike rates tomorrow, it means that you're going to see an increase in mortgage defaults. If you see an increase in mortgage defaults, you're more likely to see more bank collapses. So it's highly unlikely at this point in time that the Fed raises rates tomorrow. If anything, it's more likely from my perspective that the Fed actually drops the rate than raises it. I'm expecting it to come in at 0%. Although the market expects it to come in, there's like a 70% chance it comes in at 0.25%. But look, if it comes in at 0% tomorrow, we break $30,000. And that's why I'm hedging long on Bitcoin. However, I have a slight fear right now that Bitcoin is going to get squeezed. It's been squeezed several times today down to this control line that you see in the middle of the screen right here. And that control line represents the highest level of liquidity within this trading range. Now, why does Bitcoin keep getting squeezed? The reason why Bitcoin keeps getting squeezed is because market makers can make a lot of money if they know that everybody's hedging long. The other important thing to point out, though, is not everybody is hedging long, so that theory is somewhat defunct. You'll see the funding rates on both Bitcoin and Ethereum right now are not at a full 0.01%. They're actually slightly below that, and that's because there's quite a significant short interest in the markets right now. I don't know how to read that. I'm not sure on how to read that. I feel like the natural course of action at this point is to take people like me that have got really large positions open on both Bitcoin and Ethereum. I'm not using 100x leverage. Don't be silly. I'm just using cross. I got $614,000 of Ethereum and $392,000 of Bitcoin. And those positions are currently sat a little bit in a profit and a little bit in a loss. But really, I've literally just opened those positions. I've done some risk mitigation on those positions earlier today. Technically, they're about $10,000 at a loss because of the risk mitigation that I've had to do to stop to try and get better entries, basically. I entered them a little bit high, but my entries right now are looking a lot better than what they were doing. But essentially, I expect that there is a medium possibility that the market makers basically try and stop out people like me, try and trigger our stop losses and then the market will pump to the upside. Now, tomorrow it's going to get very volatile around 4 p.m, but actually the volatility is going to happen from midday onwards. I might even start streaming at midday and do like a 6-hour stream all afternoon, because tomorrow it's going to get crazy. It's going to get weird. It's going to get wonderful. or maybe not. It could get really, really terrible at the same time. So drop a like on today's video and subscribe to the channel if you want to get updates as soon as I get those updates, because it's going to be an interesting one. Ethereum could also get squeezed to the downside. One of the things that we've seen today, actually, is Ethereum's Bitcoin value is back on the rise. And that's pretty positive to be seeing. This is only the 1 minute chart. But if we look at something like the 1 hour chart, you'll see that Ethereum's Bitcoin value is back on the rise. And that's suggesting a bit of a change happening right now with regards to Bitcoin dominance, because Bitcoin dominance appears to have found some level of resistance. In fact, if I'm to go over now to the daily chart on Bitcoin dominance, you'll see that essentially we're back at this key level of resistance. I think at this point in time, we're more likely to see stagnation in the price of Bitcoin around $30,000 and some kind of altcoin season, unless the news comes tomorrow that the Fed is going to actually reduce interest rates. And if the Fed is going to reduce interest rates, expect Bitcoin's price is going to go crazy, and then expect altcoin dominance to decrease even further, expect Bitcoin dominance to increase even further, and expect the markets to go just wild. It's going to be a wild, wild day tomorrow. And to kind of hedge against all of this, I've been looking at buying precious metals recently. One of the precious metals that I've been looking at buying is platinum. So I was looking today at this. I went onto a website called Bullion Trading LLC. It's an American website based in New York where you can buy these gold bullions. Again, not an advert, it's just literally what I look at in my spare time. And I was looking at buying this and I saw Credit Suisse. Is this one worth more? Now it's a limited edition and Credit Suisse doesn't exist anymore. It's only $10,000 limited edition Credit Suisse Platinum bar. I might buy myself one of them just as a matter of something fun to do. And, you know, I can hold it up in a video, can't I? Or maybe that's just a complete liability, having $10,000 just lying around. I don't know. I just found it quite interesting that you can now buy a limited edition Platinum bar by Credit Suisse. They're not making any more of them, are they? Anyway, talking about the price of Bitcoin, of course, what is currently going on with the price of Bitcoin and how can we analyze the price? Well, essentially, yes, we have this control line that's formed somewhere around these levels. We also have a lower control line here when you start zooming out that's all the way down at $27,200. It's important to point out there are several key support and resistance levels on Bitcoin right now. And I think for me, it's more important to pay attention to what's going on these smaller time frames with regards to these support and resistance levels, because there's just a lot going on. But I'm also going to go over to the hourly time frame where we can get a bit more of a bigger picture. You can kind of see we're kind of penanting outwards. We've not got a whole lot of direction. From my perspective, it's very clear. Look, if Bitcoin breaks above $28,400, which is this level here, a break above $28,400 means that Bitcoin breaks 30K. It's inevitable at that point in time, but also it's unlikely that we actually break that overnight. It's more likely that we break that tomorrow. It's going to be a long night for me staying up and watching $1 million worth of positions. I can tell you that for free, which is why I'm going to be going live on YouTube this evening. So make sure you do join me over there as well. But on the topic of Bitcoin, Bitcoin looks meh. Ethereum kind of also looks a bit meh. It's one of them. It's a really difficult one. You could say, look, triple top pattern here. It's time to exit and the market's going to get crushed. Alternatively, there's a different way of reading it and saying, well, yeah, technically it is a triple top there, but at the same time, it is also technically a bit of a bull flag that's coming out from there. So it's pretty difficult to read. It depends on how you zoom in, how you interpret the charts. There's a lot of different interpretations that you can have right now. And the only real clarity is what we're going to get from the Federal Reserve tomorrow, which is why you need to be subscribed to the channel, because as soon as I get the scoop, I'll keep you in the loop. And at the same time, do drop a like on today's video so I show up in your video algorithm. Now, I've got one more thing to discuss today, and that is, of course, what is currently going on with these banks. Well, we've seen recoveries in the values of these bank stocks. From my perspective, this is a short-term recovery, because essentially what the largest banks in the world, JP Morgan, Bank of America, all of these large banks, what they've been doing is they've been going in, buying up stock of these banks, which has been pumping the price of them. And at the same time as buying stock, they've been depositing huge amounts of money into these banks to stop them from going bankrupt. One of the things, though, that they're failing to recognize and understand from this is that if they deposit their funds into these banks and then those funds get withdrawn, those funds aren't in the bank anymore because the bank is still illiquid. Even if you deposit 100 billion, the bank is still illiquid. So people are going to withdraw from all of these banks like First Republic Bank. At the same time, then that will mean that the money from JP Morgan Chase and whatnot has now been withdrawn. They can't get it back, and that means that they're more illiquid in terms of their personal accounts. I think this is ballooning into something huge. You don't know how far the can is going to get kicked down the road, but at the same time, this looks absolutely terrible. And I also think there's probably some Federal Reserve manipulation going in here somewhere as well. There's probably somewhat related to the fact that they did print $3 billion the other day. I imagine that they've used probably some of those funds in order to prop up the markets. It's more than likely. We know the Fed's tactics and we know that they do these kinds of things. Anyway, of course, if you are interested in trading, click on the link for a tutorial in today's video description. At the same time, there'll be one on the screen right now. But on that note, guys, tomorrow it's going to be an interesting day. Make sure you join me on the channel. It's going to get wild. It's going to get wacky. And they said it was impossible, but we're going to do it. We're going to make money on this, and it's going to be a fantastic time. So have a great day, everybody. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.